Hey guys.
It's awesome, yeah. All right, so I think everybody's excited about this session. Fistful, how you feeling?
Feeling pretty good. It's pretty my heart's fluttering. It's cool to be up here with the Handshake Founders. You guys, it's pretty well known that you guys aren't like super duper active within the Discords and the chats, so it's really good to get a connection between the community and you guys during this time. So I'm really glad, really thankful that you guys could be here today. So thank you so much for giving us your time.
Yeah, it's super awesome. Yeah, it's super awesome. Yeah, so like I think Andrew, we were just chatting. We're just gonna keep it freestyle. I think last year was awesome too, so people can leave questions. Just we ask if you can try to use the Q&A tab, not the chat, if you want to ask a question. You are best to put it in the Q&A section, and I think it's just going to be straight up people ask, and they'll try their best to give answers. So does that sound good for everybody?
Yeah. Please utilize the Q&A. It helps us keep everything organized for all the questions because we know it can get hectic. So we want to make sure we get to everybody's question. And I think we can just start off with why aren't you active in the Handshake community that much?
You want to start? Sure. Yeah. So I think we've been active just in our own ways. I think it's just been different from maybe like what the a lot of other projects kind of like look like these days. But we were generally modeled, or I think after the projects that we admire and things like that, and some of them have anonymous project or anonymous founders, and there is there's some degree of intentionality behind it, but it doesn't mean that we're not involved. I think we are like definitely working on things, and we can elaborate on what those are kind of like later. But yeah, I don't know.
I think I'm just like a pretty private person. Like I don't like to like participate in social media or Telegram or anything like that. I mean, the most I would ever do is like IRC, but IRC has been kind of hectic lately. But yeah, that's what Andrew was saying. I think we modeled this after projects we admired. We didn't want the project to get too centralized around the founders. Like that's a big part of it. There's a lot of projects where like the founders are seen to be godlike in some sense, and we wanted this thing to be decentralized. So it's not about us, basically.
All right. And for our next question, if you could go back to planning stages.
Yeah, you guys want to read the next question, or I see the question here, so I can read it as well.
Yeah, I think Fistful, we can just go let them take care of it.
I'll just put them on. I'll put them on stage, and
I think we'll let them. I think we'll just back off and let them take care of it.
Oh no! Either way, I think it's really cool that you guys are like listing it like the way it is right now. But yeah, here's a question: if you could go back in the planning stages and make some changes, what would they be and why? That's an interesting question.
I always get this question. There's like little things I would fix, and there's little things I think we would maybe consider more. Maybe a lot of things surrounding like the auction system and various ways to improve that. Because we originally thought that the blind second price auctions, where you lock up money to mask the price, was foolproof. But there's obviously like various ways to gain that. So that would probably be one thing that we would cover more. Maybe another thing would be reconsidering like DOS limits. Just because like we just but now it's written in C, so it is a lot faster and can handle a lot more throughput. So like maybe those DOS limits could have been increased a bit more. there's a lot of little things like that where it's not perfectly to my liking. Like it could have been improved a little bit more. There's no like real major things I would have changed or done differently. I think I got this question last year too. It took me a while to think of things. That's all I can think of right now. I'll probably think of more things throughout this, and maybe I'll bring them up.
Hey, can you guys hear us okay? I got a message saying that maybe some parts of that were hard to hear. Everything's good? Okay. Cool. Yeah, I mean, from my part, from my perspective, I don't necessarily have any like regrets or things that we could have changed. I mean, the Handshake was designed to be experimental, and part of what what's experimental is just like trying things out and seeing how things work. Like so I mean, like maybe kind of like learning lessons or things like that. I mean, maybe there's something that could have been done differently related to like the way we kind of like allocated or did the fundraising or something. Maybe we could have concentrated it more amongst a few funds rather than doing like trying to optimize for all the funds or something of that sort. Yeah, I mean. But I mean, in the long run, would that have really made a difference? I'm not really sure. So yeah, I mean, I don't really have any regrets. I mean, launch was smooth and everything seemed to be relatively.
I thought of something. It's not necessarily something we would have done differently. Well, maybe it's just something I wish were different, which is like I wish maybe. Like really early on, like maybe like during the announcement when there was like a lot of momentum, is put more pressure on VeriSign and affiliates to upgrade their DNS keys, because those like the DNS keys they use right now are RSA 1024, and the whole thing with subdomains is on Handshake is they use traditional DNSSEC. So it's like you could be using like an ed 25519 key for your zone. Like if it's under COM or something, but it's like that ed 25519 key is only protected by VeriSign's RSA 1024 key. And it's like RSA 1024, even though nobody's been able to crack it, it's like people have come close, and it's generally considered insecure, and presumably eventually VeriSign will upgrade their keys because they just have to. Like it's absurd that it's still 1024. Like they could, I mean, maybe they have size concerns. But my real thoughts on this is that the reason they use RSA 1024 is because that's the bind default, like the DNSSEC keygen for bind. That software creates RSA 1024 keys by default, and so I guess that's why they use it. I haven't heard any other good theories as to why VeriSign and affiliates and all these other TLD owners on the legacy DNS still use RSA 1024. But that's a major concern still today. Hopefully, eventually they upgrade those keys so things are more secure. But I think maybe that's something I wish we like pushed harder on in the early days when. Maybe like right after announcement when there's like a lot of momentum, just like push on those guys to be like, hey, this thing is insecure. Like, what are you doing? And VeriSign, they kind of created DNSSEC, so like they should really care about this. They should care that whether DNSSEC is secure or not, and they should prove to people that it's secure, and they should want to do that. So I don't know what they're doing. I mean, I haven't checked recently. Last time I checked was maybe like a few weeks ago or like 1 or 2 months ago. But it's like, yeah, they're still using RSA 1024. It's absurd.
Cool. Next question. What are y'all working on these days, whether related to Handshake or not? You want to start? Well, you just published LCDV, right?
Yeah. So I'm working on a project called Mako, which is a full node written in C. It is a Bitcoin node, but as a lot of you might know, Handshake started as a Bitcoin node. It was a fork of Bcoin, which was a Bitcoin implementation written in JavaScript. And so I wanted to do it again, this time in C, just because I like C. But contrary to a lot of public opinion, I think C is a really good, small, elegant language, and I like the aesthetic aspects of it. I really like writing code in it. It takes a long time to write code in C, but I think it's I mean, you can make it the most portable language in existence. Like, that's why the Linux kernel runs on everything, right? So yeah, I implemented Mako in C, which is a Bitcoin full node. Once that's fully implemented, I intend to fork that into a Handshake node, just like I forked Bitcoin into a Handshake node. And then recently I was working on porting LevelDB to C, because I don't want people to have a C++ compiler or link to libstd C++, which is the C++ runtime. I want it to be, I want it to build on everything. And I sort of jokingly say, like half jokingly, half serious, say that my goal is I want a full node, a Handshake full node, to be able to run on Windows 95, because it's just sort of like it's like a fun proof of concept, right? Like, if you could send the code back in time, you could have decentralized naming, you could have decentralized money, you could have all of this in the 90s. And most people don't, fuss about portability. Like most like crypto projects and most projects in general don't fuss about portability like this. They just write like a zillion lines of Golang and like pull in all these dependencies, and then it only runs on like 3 different systems. And you don't actually get portability. You don't actually, it's not small, it's not optimized, it's this big bloated thing. And then the other aspect to this is like, I think once we have Mako ported to Handshake, it should make for like a really good like Handshake SPV node, like a new SPV resolver, which I think might be more maintainable. That's about all.
That's cool. Yeah, from my perspective, yeah. So we started the company in 2014. Kind of like really Bitcoin focused, but with the idea of making cryptocurrency useful and building use cases around it. Over the years, we've done lots of different things. In terms of Bursa, the marketplace, Bitcoin, Handshake, and we kind of ran the company like a lot more like kind of like a studio of sorts, and so I guess we've just been kind of like kind of regrouping and trying to figure out like where kind of what we're going to do next, but yeah, definitely Handshake will be a focus, and we have I think we'll continue working on cool things related to the Handshake community. Any opinion on the recent discussions to extend the claim period for the Alexa 100K and ICANN TLDs?
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable proposal. Like, I think that's a reasonable idea. Maybe another design decision we could have done differently was somehow try to make that soft forkable, or make that allow the miners to vote on that in some way. I'm not sure.
Wait, is it a hard fork to extend it?
It is now. But if we went back to the planning stage,
yeah,
we could maybe make that more extensible. My opinion is I think it's a reasonable idea. I agree. Like, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I think I don't think it's up to me though.
So what was your reaction to the recent HNS adoption with Namecheap and Opera browser? We're both excited about both projects. With both Namecheap and Opera browser. We've had a chance, I guess, to talk a little bit to the Namecheap folks, and maybe through Foxy through some of the Opera folks. But I'm very excited about more and more companies in the internet space adopting Handshake. I think it makes a lot of sense for them too.
Yeah, it's exciting to get integrations. It's interesting too because it's both sides of the coin. Like Namecheap, it's really interesting actually. Like Namecheap is going to be hitting the full nodes, and Opera is going to be hitting the SPD nodes, right? They need the SPD resolver to actually resolve the names, so it's like both sides of the coin. And this, I think like the SPD resolver is going to be very important, very integral to all of these integrations because it's more likely there would be more Opera-like integrations, where it's actually resolving names rather than, well, actually, I don't know. Like there might be like more major registrars who jump on board. I have no idea. But yeah, that's why I hope to continue work on Mako and make it a handshake node and hopefully just make this stuff really stable and durable and resilient and safe enough that people feel safe, running an SPD node as a daemon, just like as a core OS service, like as a system D service or whatever operating system you're running. So yeah, that put the fire under me to actually like really want to work on this stuff more.
Yeah, there are like really good examples of like, kind of like Web3 adoption kind of thing. Like it's been somewhat like unclear what Web3 even like really means. But like whether it's like NFTs or what have you. But to see, like current, browsers and domain registrars and things like that, like for Handshake to be a technology that they can kind of integrate with and kind of be a part of, and maybe like some of the most real things that in within kind of like the internet plus like crypto kind of integrations space. And so yeah, we're pretty excited about it. I think it's probably underreported too in the media. How much people are talking about those two integrations. What would it take to take added native support for SLDs?
I'll take that for DWeb.
I mean, not really. I mean, we've kind of explored this and probably haven't given this that much thought, or maybe JJ hasn't. I mean, I've been on
I don't know. Like, my opinion is we designed the system to be a replacement for the root zone, and the root zone doesn't handle subdomains. So it's like, you're kind of stepping on I feel like you're kind of stepping on a can of worms with that, because it's like, okay, well, why not third level domains? Why not fourth level domains? And all of a sudden you're just packing everything into one zone, and it's unscalable. Like you can't do things that way. And that's why DNS has the architecture it has. It was like designed in the 80s. But even today, with modern hardware, you're not gonna be able to scale that. Like putting hundreds of millions of domain names into one zone. So I don't know. That's sort of my opinion. Is that I like the simplicity and elegance of Handshake. That there's only TLDs and Handshake is the root zone, but other people might have other opinions about that, and that's fine. Like it's not like it's completely ridiculous to like want second level domains. It's just I'm sort of partial to like the elegance of the protocol and the simplicity and everything. So I don't think second level domains belong in the root zone.
I don't have strong opinions on this. Are there any alternatives to proof of work that have caught your interest? I think we're
not really, no.
I think we're somewhat opinionated on this. I mean, it's especially considering that Handshake is supposed to be like kind of like uncensorable and I mean, it's supposed to have the maximum censorship-resistant properties. I think there are definitely there may be other ways to take stake or kind of other consensus mechanisms and apply for other projects. But for the I think for Handshake it makes a lot of sense to be proof of work.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, if you can find another proof that's just as permissionless and just as, I don't see any reason why you would not want to use proof of work, other than it is hard to bootstrap proof of work networks. That is the downside to proof of work. I don't see any other downside in comparison to other proofs like proof of stake.
What domain use case are you most excited to see experimented with, excluding identities and websites? Domain use case. Domain related use case. I mean, are we excited about? Yeah, I mean, I think there's well, okay. If you consider when Handshake was launched and and where we are today. And kind of the general state of the internet, and state of maybe a little degree further free speech on the internet or censorship or however you want to kind of phrase it. I mean, it definitely seems more the Handshake and some of these kind of fundamental protocols that build kind of censorship resistant properties definitely seem more relevant. But in terms of getting to the point where these people that are censored on Twitter or YouTube could use a handshake based system or domain name based system as an alternative, or a fully decentralized kind of social network or this kind of thing. I mean, I think this is
it does say excluding identity.
Excluding identity. So are social networks excluded in this?
It's kind of an identity, right?
Okay. Yeah. Well, okay. Well, excluding identities. Oh, I mean, okay. Yeah. I think social networks and censorship-resistant based content, or something to that sort, maybe be an interesting space to explore.
It's possible they did mean identities in the sense of authentication,
maybe or human identities, or KYC type identities, or something like that. I don't know.
Excluding identities and websites. I mean, I think the exciting use cases outside of that would be the notion of using Handshake as a base layer for other projects. Projects that need some sort of provable, decentralized, distributed key value store. That's essentially what Handshake is. And it's protected by proof of work. It's a very useful thing. The only downside to using it that way is the auction system. To actually insert a key into the key value store, you need to win an auction and go through all the intervals and all the covenants to actually register a name. And it's again, that goes back to the planning thing. Maybe that's something that could have been done better if we had considered that use case more, that people might want to use this as a base layer for other things. And there's a lot of uses for a decentralized key value store, other than just domain names and identities and stuff like that.
Do you already consider Handshake a success? If not, what would you consider it a success?
I mean, I consider it a success in the sense that it hasn't broken. We haven't done any hard forks or soft forks. Well, we did have one covert soft fork to fix the inflation bug, but it works, and we didn't require a hard fork, and we managed to get it done. But other than that, I consider, from a technical perspective, which is my main thing, I consider it a success just because nobody's been able to break it yet. And that's very uncommon for a crypto project. I can't remember what it was. I think EOS or something broke the first day. Somebody found some kind of assertion failure or something. It was literally the first few hours after launch. And it's like that hasn't happened with Handshake. It's been running for 2 years now, and nobody's been able to break it. There's been a few close calls, but like the protocol seems pretty rock solid.
Yeah, I don't think we had any other real like intrinsic goals, other than kind of like design and build this, Handshake the way that was imagined, and to that effect, I definitely think we were successful, but in terms of like building community and everything else on top, I think there are other, people do, attach, different expectations and things like that. And, I think, that time will kind of prove, success in those kinds of metrics. But yeah, in terms of, what we set out to do, I believe we're successful. How much HNS do we have? All right, so we won't mention. All right, so I think out of the entire initial supply, was it 5% or 7.5%? Where was, and actually somebody should correct me on this. I'm not entirely sure if it was 5 or 7.5%, but the same amount was sold to investors.
All of this is public, by the way. It's all in the GitHub repos.
Yeah, you guys should check it out.
How much went to sponsors and project creators and all of that.
Oh, I know what it is. So out of the initial allocation, I believe it was 7.5%. Maybe it's like 5% diluted or something. But anyway, the investors and project creators had kind of like the same kind of symmetric amount, and that so Johnny Wu says it was 5%. So 5% each, and I think there were about 100 or so like invest on the investor side, and maybe about 140 different contributors on the project creator side, and I think and then in terms of like how you guys want to take a look at like how that was all split up, and you could look it up. It's all public, like JJ said, but that's kind of like the high level overview. I don't think we're going to disclose exact amounts here.
Yeah, all of the numbers are in HS. They're in. I think they're in the HS tree data repository. They're part of the HS airdrop, and all of that's public. All the Merkle tree data is actually public because it actually has to, because we have to prove non-inflation, because like the coins weren't going to be claimed right away. So it's like we needed to prove. You could run into a case where like somebody didn't claim, and then you have no idea whether they would inflate the currency when they did claim. So like all of the actual values are public.
What are the most important things that the community should be doing more of to help Handshake grow? What should the Handshake community do?
I mean, I don't know how to make it grow, but I think like having maybe like a general community philosophy about. So many crypto communities get toxic really quick. Like this sort of happened Bitcoin is the one I'm most familiar with, and it's not friendly to newcomers. And so I think just sort of like maintaining a philosophy of being friendly, I guess. As far as what to make it grow, I mean, I'm not like a growth hacker expert, that type of person, but I think generally just being a welcoming community, because there's a lot of crypto communities that aren't like that.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to think like on this regard, I mean, building things that are useful. I think there's been lots of projects that have been showcased here. Been a huge fan of like Niami and HNS Chat and several of the new projects that have been kind of coming out, and things that I think that's what will like basically help everything grow, just people building useful things that other people also find useful. All right, in response to no reason not to use proof of work, what about excessive electricity and semiconductor usage?
I'm not all that convinced it is excessive. Is it?
I'm not. I don't know. I mean, my general, I don't know. Maybe it's perceived as controversial, but I mean, in general, like if you just look at like humanity so far, like the quality of life, which I think is the thing that, we should be, individually trying to maximize for, it has correlated strongly with, like how much energy we consume as a society. And to kind of like, I mean, maybe Bitcoin is even a good example of that. I mean, I don't think it consumes, or Handshake or any of these cryptocurrencies are actually consuming as much as value as it's creating in terms of energy. But I mean, I don't think this is something that's like something that should be first and foremost.
The reason people think proof of work uses excessive energy is because proof of work can be reduced down to one quantifiable metric of energy use, of electricity. Whereas other things that use every day, like the Federal Reserve, for example, how much energy do you think that uses? How much electricity? How much paper? How much office supplies? How many paychecks they have to send out every month? How many office buildings they have to light up? How many printing presses they have to run? How many coin minting things they have to run? How much aluminum they have to mine? Like all of this is probably more than Bitcoin. I would argue a lot of like cryptocurrencies combined, but it's not. You can't reduce it down to one quantifiable metric. So it seems like proof of work is using excess electricity. I don't agree that it is, and I think that the electricity that it does use is very valuable. Like it's not like it's being wasted. It's protecting the network and it's giving the coin value.
Yeah, and most of the electricity being consumed by proof of work systems are used by excess electricity and at least or from renewable energies and things like that. And from that perspective, it's like furthering renewable technologies. And so I generally think I think the problem's been overblown.
And yeah, I tend to think it's just sort of like proof of stake propaganda. Like I'm very anti proof of stake. If you've never had a conversation with me before, if you did have a conversation with me, very quickly you would learn that I do not like proof of stake. It's a different security model from. Sorry, I'll take that back. I don't like proof of stake when people act like it's a drop-in replacement for proof of work. It's not. It's a different security model. It has different security properties. It is useful. It does have its uses, but you're not just going to replace proof of work with proof of stake and get the same security model. So saying, well, proof of stake has all the benefits of proof of work and it doesn't hurt the environment, I think that's untrue. I think the whole narrative surrounding proof of stake and how it uses less energy, like I really just think it's pro proof of stake propaganda.
Who is HNS biggest threat right now? Who's the biggest threat to HNS? I think. Biggest threat to HNS.
I don't know. I don't know if I want to. I mean, I think a lot of people would say it's ICANN or the all the SSL cert companies or something like that. I don't know if I want to think about that right now.
I really know about that. Next question. What was the next question? How's Mako going?
I mean, it's going well. I touched on this a little bit. It's just I hit sort of a bump in the road in that there was no good database library in C. There are good databases in C. It's just none of them are like well suited for UTXO sets or any of the kind of data we need to store in Handshake. So LevelDB is actually uniquely suited to that purpose, and porting that to C was. I mean, it wasn't technically necessary because you can link to the C++ version, but yeah, I don't like C++ like I don't like proof of stake. So, but yeah, it's going well. Like new database, it should be like the first full node that's like completely written from scratch, and every aspect of it can be completely controlled by the project maintainers.
Why HNS supply and halving is different from Bitcoin? Supply and halving.
There's a bigger supply.
Oh yeah. Any reason why we didn't like choose 21 and stuff like that?
I mean, I think I don't know. It switched around so much because like we had different block times originally, and like we switched back to 10 minutes. But I mean, I think a lot of it was just we wanted there to be more coins for the airdrop and all the different allocations and stuff like that. We wanted to be sure to like give exactly, you know, like a third to the miners and 80% to the airdrop, and then I mean, I can't tell you the exact mechanics of it, but it was something like that. Like we played around with it a lot, or I did until we found like a number and a halving interval that seemed to work out.
Why was a Bitcoin implementation forked instead of Monero to fork anonymity?
I mean, from my understanding, I'm not a Monero expert, so don't quote me on it. But from my understanding, Monero has similar issues to like Zcash in that it's unscalable in the sense that you need to store like these once only use nonces that need to be indexed. A lot of these privacy coins have these like scalability issues, and I don't know. We were more familiar with Bitcoin and more familiar with how to make it secure, and yeah, I mean, you could make a naming thing that has more privacy built into it, but I don't know. Privacy is not everything, and privacy coins have their own issues, and now a lot of privacy coins are being delisted from exchanges. So let's see how that goes. But yeah, privacy coins, from my understanding, don't quote me. I'm not an expert on Monero. I'm not an expert on Zcash, but they do have their own set of scalability issues that I wouldn't want to figure out how to like route around or how to fix. I mean, at the end of the day, like Handshake is not about fancy cryptography or privacy. It's about making a decentralized naming thing. It's about something that just works. Like I feel like a lot of crypto projects get like too involved in the crypto, and they just want to do fancy crypto things just for the hell of it, and that's not really what Handshake is about.
All right. Well, thank you guys for being here. It looks like we're coming up on time for our next session. I wish we had more. We have a ton more questions here, but I don't think there would ever be enough time. But again, thank you guys for giving your time, answering questions from the community. And then really quick, we're going to play or Mike, did you want to say anything?
I mean, no, that's it. I mean, thanks again for coming back this year. It's always a big highlight, and we really appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're going to play a
go
quick
ahead.
video. We're going to play a quick video, and we're going to switch into a networking break.
All right.
Thanks.
See you guys.
Yeah, bye.
Thanks.
Bye, guys.
Kinetic is a blockchain crypto investment firm based in Hong Kong and Puerto Rico. Founded in 2016, they were the first fund in Hong Kong and one of the earliest in Asia. With a portfolio of over 220 companies, they were seed investors in such projects as Ethereum, Parity and Polkadot, Solana, FTX and of course Handshake and Namebase. Founder Johan Chu is an active investor and supporter of the Handshake ecosystem. Over 100,000 domains, co-founder of DWeb Foundation, co-founder of HandyCon, and sponsor of the Handshake House at Miami Hack Week 2022.